Hey everyone, it's me again, and well, we might as well get started like we always do. Well, the last couple of days have been actually kind of, I don't know, very interesting. A lot of things have happened lately. Like, Sunday, sorry. Saturday, Nakazawa-san was here. Sunday, Nakazawa-san showed me around town. It was kind of cool. First, we woke up early and we went to an old farmhouse, or old, like, Japanese-style farmhouse village thing. I wasn't quite sure. Like, I saw the little buildings around it. It was quite interesting. Like, it had old things like rice paddies, like how they would have grown those. And we got to see silkworms, which was kind of interesting. It was kind of neat seeing the old, not really retro, but like the very older way that things were done. Like we got to see the inside of this of the house, of the main house where the family would have lived. And it was very open and like paper doors, and there was like a little like pot that Nakazawa-san explained to me about how the families would always come together to this pot, because like to the center area on the floor, because that's where they cooked all the food and it was the warm part. And I don't know, it was just interesting seeing that way of life that it would have been back, however long ago, hundreds of years. Living, like right now I'm in an apartment, Japanese apartment. It's still different from back home, but I mean, it's kind of, it's similar. It's still relatively modern living. But it's still modern, well, not really even relative. It is modern living. But back, to the farmhouse, it was just, you can almost just feel like how the people would have like lived in this thing. Like they would go out and work in the rice fields and the rice paddies. Lots of water. I feel like a lot of mosquitoes would come out of that. And I don't know, it was very interesting. It wasn't what I was expecting. And you always see the movies where you expect to see these big, like, castles and big, buildings where the really wealthy families would live. And this looked like a relatively smaller building that, like, a normal family would have lived in. Or a normal village would have just been around and done, just relatively mundane things for the time. It was just interesting to see a different aspect on that. And, well, after that, Nakazawa-san, the host dad, he showed me the Tokyo Metropolitan Building. And the thing about the Tokyo Metropolitan Building in Shinjuku is that it has an observatory at the top floor. I think it's up 46th floor. Like, it's very high up, hence observatory. Anyway, when, we went up and saw it, and I don't know, it was almost, I'm trying to, like, reuse different words, but it was almost mind-blowing just how big the Tokyo area is. There's just, like, when you go up and you look at all the windows, you can't see where the city ends. You can't, like, you could see, like, little things like trees, like, in the city, like, where the parks are and where the natural areas are, but you look out into the distance and all you see is just buildings and fog and clouds. But I mean, that's because you're looking at buildings that are miles and miles away because you're up in the air. But it's just, the buildings literally never stopped. They just kept going until they just faded into the horizon. And no matter what direction you looked, it was the same. I mean, there were different buildings and a completely different view, but they all kept going. It was kind of like that painting you'd see, like with a vanishing point. It was like that. They kept going until they just hit that point where you just can't see anymore. And since I probably talked about this before, but I'm from a small town called Winchester. It has like 20,000 people. So it is microscopic on the scope that Tokyo is. Tokyo is gigantic in that scope. So, I don't know, I think that's the time I truly realized how big and how elegant this city is. And how elegant everything, and how, like, the big scale. It just, I couldn't comprehend it before I saw just how large everything is. And how compact these people live together. There's buildings everywhere, except for, like, the sanctioned parks and, public buildings and stuff like that. But, yeah. I mean, I was exhausted after that, so not much more happened that day. But today, I was hanging out with a friend, Kenjiro, a friend of the family, and we were hanging out in Ueno. And Ueno was a pretty interesting place. Like, first, we saw a museum. What did we do before that? Oh yeah, well, first we saw some memorials. Like, I think the main memorial in a park. And we saw, like, a temple. It's very interesting. I got a bad fortune, which kind of sucks. But it was kind of interesting how... it's interesting. For this very technological people, they're very superstitious. Like, they have fortunes told, and they have, like... It's not really a rack, but they have a special, like, area where you tie off the bad ones. Hoping that they don't happen. Like, if you get a bad one, which is what I did, I tied mine off, because apparently it wasn't good at all. But... it's very interesting. Like, those, like, and one, like, I think I talked about it earlier, there's, like, a ritual involved with going to temples. And part of the ritual is there's, like, water. There's, like, a flowing little, like, spout with some, like, a little, like, cup type thing. And pretty much you wash your hands with this pure water before you, like, you're supposed to do this before you go, like, up into the temple and, pray or get your fortune or do whatever type of thing you're going to be doing there. We do a little pray, and we also saw another shrine along the way, and that was quite interesting. They have different shrines for everything. Like, they have ones for health, they have ones for babies, they have ones for marriage, they have ones for pretty much anything, which was kind of cool. But it still goes back to, they're very superstitious people. Like, they leave out offerings for the spirits of the dead, the kami, the god spirits that are around, and I just find it very interesting. Because, you wouldn't expect that from these technological, very strict people, but, they have that type of outlet. And I just find it very interesting that, there's kind of that mystical element, but that goes with the technology, like they contrast in a way that it's almost just, it's hard to kind of conceive of without really seeing it. But I thought that was really interesting. And we went to a museum, and it was kind of interesting to see how everything progressed. And I guess I never really realized how much history is in this nation. 'Cause in the United States, there's really, like, of what the true United States is. I mean, that didn't happen until the late 1700s. And that's not, relatively, compared to most countries, that's not a lot of history. While Japan's been doing things for, hundreds, thousands of years. I mean, granted, they didn't have a writing style for, until, I can't remember, there was a certain period where they didn't have a writing style for a while, so they couldn't record things, but it was just the fact that they still have more ingrained history in who they are as a people. And it was just interesting seeing the build-up of everything that they were throughout this museum. So I thought that was very interesting to see that development. And one more, and that was kind of the main thing that happened that day, but one more little side note. Like, when we were going to the museum, I saw a lot of homeless people. At least I think they were homeless people. Like, they had the very typical, like, very dirty clothes, sleeping on newspapers. And I don't know, I was kind of shocked. It was surprising to me that a nation that is seen as so heavily advanced technologically and economically, and like all these views of how advanced Japan is compared to other nations. It's very interesting to see that it has some of the problems that advanced economies have, like the United States and Europe. There are homeless people. They have an elder population. Like in Japan, 1 in 4, like I've heard, 1 in 4 of the citizens in Japan are over the age of 60. So that puts a heavy burden on their Social Security-esque program that they have for them to take care of them and all that. And it's just interesting to see that, because you see it, like, before I came, I I didn't really think of it that way. Like, I thought it almost as like a wonderland. Like, it had all these cool things. I never really got any thought into anything bad afterwards. So it was just very interesting to see that it has other characteristics. That it's, everyone sees it as something different, but it has some problems that are consistent with other growing economies, with other nations. So it's quite interesting to see that, despite the differences, there are similarities linking all these nations together. But with that, I don't know, there was just so many things that I realized lately. Japan's so much deeper than I ever would have expected coming on this trip. So, I don't know. But anyway, it's starting to get kind of a headache, so I guess I'll see you guys later in the week. I will definitely try to post by Thursday, but you see how I am with schedules. Yeah. So, but I need to definitely try to do that, so I guess I'll see you guys Thursday.